everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sound Test Unplugged. I am your very geeked host, Alex Norimaki, and the wonderful human being on my left, on your right, is Ashley Barrett, the vocalist, the artist, she who I have geeked over speaking to for like 2 weeks. So I've just, that's really it. I don't know how else to put it, but I am just very excited to have you here. So thank
I'm
you.
so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is amazing. This has been like a long time coming for me because you know what? I had like a whole thing that I was going to tell you, but I'm just going to tell you in the most casual way possible. You are literally part of the reason me and my boyfriend are together.
I love that so much.
Like,
That's
just
incredible.
to start you off.
Now I need all the details. Is it paper boats? Is it filled out? What was it?
It's
What
it's
is
like a
it?
very small thing, but it's like all you. So like one of the first, so my boyfriend met me through me streaming on Twitch, and he actually got rated into my channel. And when he did, I wasn't playing anything that you've been a part of. I was playing Zelda, like it wasn't anything you did. But he had like hung out with us in Discord a few times, and at one point I was just playing Hades because Hades had just come out and we were loving it and having the time of our life. And one thing I do when I'm just like casually playing video games is I start singing. And I just start kind of like humming and singing along to whatever it is I'm doing. And that's like one of his favorite things I do, I guess. And so he started calling me Eurydice the entire time that we were
Oh my
playing. And
God.
my name in his phone, like to this day, is Eurydice and Bay put together. So it's just Eurydice. Like that's my name.
Oh my God,
And
that's so cute.
he's just like, you're just like Eurydice. You just go along singing. So like Eurydice is his favorite character in Hades, and so you did good. You did real good.
Yay! Oh my God, I love that story so much. It's amazing how many like coupley things I hear, like a lot of wedding songs, like
Mhm.
are from some of the stuff that Darren and I have done together. So that makes me feel very happy.
That is so cute. The wedding songs. Oh, but yes,
I know, maybe if things go well, like you could think of one of our songs for your wedding song. Just saying.
you're gonna get like a letter, and it's gonna have like a little flash drive. And it's gonna be the video of me like walking down the aisle.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Well, like I said, thank you so much. I've got so much I want to talk to you about, but before we get into like the nitty gritty kind of things, one of the first things I tell everybody that comes on here is I very lovingly and not at all in a weird way kind of stalk you across the internet. I am an educated host. Okay, I know who I'm talking to,
Yes,
and
we appreciate that.
yes, like I'm not going to come in here and be like, so who are you exactly? Like we're not doing this here. And one of the things when I came across your website is that you have this quote on your website, and I pulled it up here for verbatim reading.
Oh,
And the quote says, "There is no other time in life when I feel more myself, more comfortable, or more at home than when I'm singing or listening to music." And I think whether or not somebody is a musician or very musically inclined, they can kind of relate to that just because there's everybody has that thing that makes them feel very at home. But my question
mhm.
to you is like, has music always been this sort of place of comfort for you, or did it come later in life? Like, how did that become your home?
Yeah, it's a great question off the bat.
Ah, yes.
I I think yes, definitely always since the beginning. I mean, my family is very musically oriented. We, listen to music, like classical music when we do our homework, when I was a kid, and then
Fancy.
listening to James Taylor. Yeah, James Taylor during dinner and Bonnie Raitt in the car. Like there was never a time that music wasn't like a soundtrack,
Right.
somehow of what we were doing. So I think I was really just like used to music always being around. And then I started singing probably like my first show was when I was 5. I was in The Wiz as Munchkin. Yes,
Yes.
so fun. And yeah, so I got the bug. I got the musical theater bug. And basically from 5 years old until, you know, college, I was doing musicals and yeah, being on stage was definitely just where I felt like super comfortable, especially going through all the hard trials and tribulations of childhood and, being a teen and whatnot. That was
Oh
always
boy.
like my favorite thing, just like being on stage or being in rehearsal, it was like a way to put everything else aside and kind of just escape. And yeah, so I've always felt super comfortable. It's crazy to this day, like even the biggest stages, I'm like so much more comfortable there than I am like, in a one-on-one, not this is great, but you know what I mean? Like in a another kind of social interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes
Yeah, so I don't know if
sense.
that answers your question.
No, it's perfect, and I get it. I think, like I said, everybody sort of has that space that is their home. That's where they go to. That's where they can just go and they can exist and not have to worry about, everything around them. And it's
Mhm.
their escape. And I think when we're talking art, especially music, it's an escape for people. And even when
Yeah.
we're moving into video games as a whole, they're escapes for people. And I love to say that you don't have a full video game until you've got the music that goes along with it. And I think you're gonna get complimented this entire interview. Like the music that you've done has definitely contributed to that escapism for people. And so, of course, it makes sense that music would be your home and that's where you're more comfortable. I'm like the exact opposite because I love singing, but like the minute I have to sing in front of people, I'm like, y'all are all looking at me kind of hard. It's a lot of eye contact you're making, but I get it. It makes
Yeah.
total sense. It really does. So obviously, music is part of life, right? Tell me your background, like obviously musical theater and everything. Your background as a vocalist specifically. How did you get into this?
Yes. So I started in musical theater, and that's kind of how Darren and I first came into each other's orbit because we
Right.
actually both have crossovers. I don't think we ever did a show. I think we've decided we've never done a show together when we were kids, but we had the same community theater
Mm-hmm.
here in the Bay Area in California. So when I kind of grew up doing musical theater in college, I was in an a cappella group, very competitive a cappella group.
Ooh.
Got very into like harmonies and all that kind of stuff in college. And then I moved to New York right after college. And I think my first year there, I was connected via like alumni theater things with Darren's brother,
Mm-hmm.
Dan. And then eventually Darren, who had me doing some other stuff on projects he was working on. It was like pre Supergiant Games. He was like, he wrote a musical with his brother and like had me come in and sing something for that and just kind of gravitated towards my voice, which was amazing because it's led me to where I am now.
Right.
And so he asked me, I think it was like 2008 or 9, if I wanted to sing on a video game. And, I was not at all in that world.
Mm-hmm.
Played video games as a kid, but like Super Mario Brothers, like I was not at all familiar with what that meant.
Yeah.
So I've often said in interviews that I literally thought I was going into this to do like singing things like do 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 do. Like that's what I was like, sure, I'll sing on your video game. I don't know what this means. And then he sent me Build That Wall and I was like, this is like a real song. Like this
This
is
is a song
like
song.
yeah, it's a song. It's not like a techno backdrop for like people jumping and hitting coins out of boxes. It was like it was like a real song and a beautiful song and
Right.
something that I loved and like, it was so great because he wrote it with my voice in mind. So it was, you know, easy to sing and fun to sing. And yeah, it just kind of opened up this whole world for me where I was like, oh my gosh, the importance of video game music and, the experience it gives people and
Right.
what it can be because I had such a small mindset in terms of like what it was used for
Right.
and, the kinds of music that was out there.
That is so cool. Personally, I think it'd be hilarious to hear you do your own rendition of the Mario theme. We can make it the most ethereal thing you've ever heard.
Yeah,
Like
let's do it.
the new Mario movie comes out in 2 years. It's plenty of time to get you on the soundtrack. I
Let's do it.
will get
Yeah.
Nintendo on the phone in a minute. Don't worry.
Well, it's kind of a full circle moment when last summer we did the at the Hollywood Bowl, we sang in the Game Awards like video game
Yeah,
concert.
yeah.
It was so amazing. And then they had Jack Black there who
Hmm.
did Peaches. And it was like, oh my God, this is like what I thought, it was obviously it's different, but yeah. Anyways, Mario Brothers, love it.
Mario
Give me a call.
Brothers. Call her, please. For my sake, not just for hers. Do it for me. Oh my god. Jack Black singing Peaches. He has no idea what he's
Yeah.
done. He
On
probably
a
does.
beach with Anna. It was incredible. It was like such a fun thing to be like on the wings for.
Oh, absolutely. I'd keep that with me for like the rest of my life, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so you getting involved with all of this, it just very much opened your eyes because video games was not originally a part of your thing. And
Yes.
so here's my question, and it is absolutely okay if your answer is like, I don't do a whole lot of it, but like, have you since explored more video game music and like, have you listened to some of it? Have you been like, ooh, I love what this does? Like, what is the extent of like your immersion into the culture of video game music?
Yeah, I mean, I would say extensive because it's opened my eyes to a ton. Like, I have playlists dedicated to just the songs that I listen to, like when I need to focus or,
Oh, you're one of
things that I've
us.
been. Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, that's what I love about video game music is like it's not just part of the video game. Like, there's so many people that listen to it outside or who like come to our concerts. Like, and that's not even at all game. That's like it becomes a whole other
Yeah.
living breathing thing. So, yeah, one of my favorite soundtracks is Journey, and that's, mostly because I became friends with Austin Wintory, like when we did when did we do that? It was the year of COVID. So 2020, we went to London and we recorded our sort of like greatest hits Supergiant games,
Hmm.
or I forget what it was, songs of Supergiant games. That's what it's called. Um, so I met him and then became just a fan of him, like as a human, and then started getting into all of his music. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the best
Right.
stuff. So I listened to Journey a lot. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I love that soundtrack.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I mean, I love anything Darren does, which is just,
No
there's a
bias,
lot
of
of
course.
music. There's no bias,
No
no.
bias.
But yeah, there's a lot of music that I don't work on that I listen to after the fact, and I'm like, that goes in my playlist of stuff
Hmm.
where I'm, just some of the like fight themes or whatever that I'm not privy to before the game comes out.
Hmm. So Journey is definitely one of your favorites. Baldur's Gate 3 got a lot of people, quite frankly, with their soundtrack because it is good.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
amazing. You
that's so
have
epic.
it is. I think it's perfect. Like I think it fits the game and everything you're doing in it and the D&D vibes like to a T. It's perfect. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
In this playlist of yours, first off, how long is it? I just want to know. Like is it one that you
I
built or like
know.
have you like found some on YouTube? You built it yourself?
No. Yeah, I just keep adding to it, as I like discover because like Spotify has a great algorithm that kind of just like shoots you songs like you'll like this one. So I couldn't even say probably like more than 100 songs at
Good.
this point, because
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
actually started playing it so my son is now 1.5, and
Hmm.
when he was a baby, I needed like music to keep me sane, like when he was a newborn. So I would play a lot of that kind of stuff, like
Oh
just
my
to, you
gosh.
know, in the background, which I also hear a lot of people like, along with wedding songs. It's like, this is my baby's lullaby, or, whatever it might be. So it's so fun to go into that.
That is so cute. Listen, that's like parent points for real. Like when my nephew's 7 now, but like when he was a baby and I'd be watching him, I would just turn some Final Fantasy music on and he'd finally quiet down and I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of Final Fantasy on that playlist, that's
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just such good taste, which of course makes sense. So, I want to hear about like the creative process, like when for example, like when you and Darren are working on a song, right? Like, what is like the step by step? If it works that way, it might not be step by step or very linear, but like, how do you get from here's a game that we need music for to here's a song we made for this game? Like, what's the process there?
Sort of been different for every game that we've worked on, and we've been doing this for a long time together. So I like when we first did Bastion, it was like, here is the song. Can you learn it and come in and record it? And then it's become more of a like, I'm thinking about this kind of humming for this part. Like it sometimes is collaborative and that I like help kind of identify certain, like, oh, what if we did this? But it's mostly all Darren. Like he has it ready to go. He knows what he wants and he comes in and tells me and I, try and learn it on my own. And then I come in and get pointers from him
Right.
or virtually. We do a lot of stuff virtually since stupid pandemic. But yeah, so it's usually like a framework and then like an outline of what's happening and kind of like education for me on like this part of the game or this is the mood that we're trying to convey or this is the backstory of this character and then we kind of go from there. But yeah, there was a lot more vocalization stuff on like Pyre versus like songs like on Transistor
Right.
or Bastion. Hades.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I think that was what I had in my mind going into it because I definitely, obviously, I've played Hades, but I played Transistor about 6 weeks ago for the first time. And
Yeah.
for everybody watching, great game. Go play it. It's awesome. I definitely shed a couple tears, not gonna lie to you. It's a wonderful game. And so as I was sitting here, I was like, oh yeah, no, there's like songs in Transistor as opposed to the more just vocalization over here. So there's no way it's all done the same. And I mean, you're making
Yeah.
music at the end of the day, and that's an artistic
Yeah.
process, and art is not straightforward. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting to hear like how do you get from A to B? And I guess if it's two people kind of working together and they both have their roles to play and what it is that they're creating, I guess it kind of just depends. That the answer is it
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also Darren does a good job of knowing sort of like my range and like how I can sing things. But then if I come in and sing in a different way, it's very collaborative once it's like, we once we give it a shot. Like I'll do it first and I'll be like, well, let's do this part high and let's do this part, more breathy or, and that kind of
Right.
changes the way that the song is. And yeah, again, he's like the greatest person to work with because he has very clear thoughts and, is very articulate.
Articulative, either one.
I
English.
like articulative.
Me
I think I
too.
just made it up. Um, yeah, so it's been, and now that we've worked together for so many years, it's just really fun and easy to collaborate.
So like, do you guys just have like a flow at this point? You're like, all right, Darren, next one. You know what we got to do? I already know what you're thinking. We've got it down. You tell me the list. We're gonna knock these out. Like, do y'all have a workflow? Is it just very easy? I mean, you say it's easy, but like, is it just I know what's going on and we're good?
Yeah, I'd say before we got into virtual land, it was like that. And especially like with Transistor, because for those who don't know, there is like a humming soundtrack as well. So that was a lot of stuff and that wasn't decided until like I think we were done with all the stuff. And then they decided to add the humming in.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
like, we got to go back and do humming for all these songs. And that was very much a like, we had the process down and it was like in the booth like okay next one like we figured it out but then as things changed and we learned that we had to do recording on Zoom it was like
Yeah.
a lot of board confusion with like Darren being like put this in here so I can hear you here on Zoom but not through your microphone
Oh
like
gosh.
the logistics of all of that stuff added a different element. I mean, still like easy, but like I'm more like, wait, what? Where are you? Do I look at you? Are you in my, yeah. So
Oh my
now
gosh.
we're sort of getting back to being together, which is nice. But um, yeah, always an easy flow just because we're like friends
Yeah.
above all else too.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
the more I got to learn about how long y'all have been working together, y'all are like a little two-person video game soundtrack dream team. Like we're doing it. Like it is us and we've got it, and don't worry about it because it's gonna get done. But
Yeah, and it speaks to the like just the people that make up Supergiant Games because everyone on that team is just like the best humans in the world and everyone's loyal and because they could have replaced me with like someone else or like brought in other people and the
mhm,
fact that they keep inviting me back and have me be a part of this whole journey has been so wonderful. I mean, I thank them any opportunity I can, but like they invite me to all of their things and I go on their retreats and we go have a
oh,
holiday party and like all of that fun stuff.
that's
So
so
it makes me
sweet.
feel like, yeah, that I'm like a part of them, which is nice.
That was another thing that I was thinking about. Like it's not super common, at least not that I've seen, where like the vocalists, a lot of development companies keep on like a one composer or a set of composers, but
Hmm.
like for them to just like, as far as I'm concerned, like you're part of the Supergiant team, right? And that's
Yeah,
not very
me too.
common. You're right. I hope so. You
Yeah.
went on retreats, like
Yeah.
that's so cool. But like, it's not very common in the industry
No.
for you to just you are the vocalist for
Yeah.
Supergiant. That's so not common, which I agree. I think that really speaks to just how they're just like the sweetest people. I can just, and I'm sure you've got a different reason why you would agree, but like for me as a player, you can just tell that these are A, real human beings who care about the
Hmm.
things that they're creating, but B, that they are very great people.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. That rings true. I mean, you can tell it as a fan, as a friend, it's just great leadership and the team has stuck around. I mean, think we just had like a cheers for a Bastion milestone. I can't even remember how long it's been, like maybe 12 years or something, but I think everyone that worked on Bastion is still there or like in some capacity. It's just wild. It's like
Yeah.
it's very rare in this uh world to have that happen. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
so awesome. I think Supergiant was already such a like, I'm talking like pre Hades at this point because I think Hades put Supergiant on the map for a lot of people who hadn't played
Sure.
the other games. But like as I'm going back and playing the games that came before Hades, I'm like, oh, y'all were already those people. Y'all were already them. And then
Yeah.
Hades was just like the no, for real, look at us because we know what we're
Yeah.
doing kind of thing.
Totally.
I absolutely I have nothing but respect for all of you on that team because I think y'all have the type of culture in the game industry that I think any development team should really have. I feel like it's more fun that way. And like you're making a game. The whole point is to have fun, but like I
Yeah.
I could go on for like ever. I just think Supergiant is a very good one. This is not me kissing up. I'm just
Yeah.
very serious. I swear.
I fully agree.
So all of this sounds so smooth, and I love that for you, but I'm a little messy, so I would love to hear. Have there ever been any memorable challenges that come when you're trying to create this video game music? Like, do you have a story where you're like, we had to take this 85 times because it just was not working?
Yeah, there are definitely Darren is known to have some like very unique timestamps on, things. So it's not very straightforward, like one, two, three, one. Like
Right.
he just kind of messes with things. So
Okay.
sometimes it's hard for me to hear and like he'll be like, no, you come in on the one or you come in on the three, like and that has been like like banging my head against a wall, kind of like trying to figure that out. But then once we get it, which is nice. But yeah, I'd say maybe some other stuff is just like if it's not placed in my voice right, but Darren's like, I know you can hit that note. Like I've
Mm.
heard you do it before. And then I'll have like this confidence freak out like in the booth, like I can't do it. So there's a lot of coaching hit me through things. And, we try crazy things. Like one time I sang a note, I think it was for Hades, but I can't remember. It must have been for Hades because I remember like what I was wearing in the time, but he had me sing upside down. And I have like a picture of me singing upside down at like helped me like get to the higher place in my voice.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was, yeah, that was crazy and fun. And yeah, that's maybe a challenge.
Singing upside down may be a challenge. That might be
Yeah.
something. That
Yeah.
is so much better than I could have ever asked for. Because in my head, I'm like, yeah, we just had to sing this song 1,000 times. But you're like, no, he strung me upside down so I could get this note. Like, the creativity, first off, like the loyalty to
Yeah.
trying to get this right, but the creativity to get there, that's
Yeah.
that's different.
It's somewhere, I think it's somewhere on my Instagram, that picture, because it was so funny. I was like, you have to take a picture of this. This is ridiculous. I didn't even know that that was a thing that you do, but apparently it is.
What was it for? You said it was in Hades. Do you remember, like,
I
specifically?
mean, it must have been for Good Riddance, but I don't feel like that song is typically that hard, like in my voice. So I'll get back to you on that one. I can't remember.
I would love to know, like, so I can tell people the next time I play Hades, like, hey, this is the song where Ashley had to be hung upside down so she could just
Right.
sing the note.
Right.
I mean, like, now you can't unhear it.
Yeah.
You can hear it singing
I
upside
know.
down.
And to be clear, I just like put my head down. I wasn't like hung upside
Oh,
down. I just like
I'm so dramatic because in
sang.
my head, I mean, you're all the way. Like, that is so funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
still
There you
funny.
go.
Not quite as ridiculous. Probably better for you. Way safer.
Yeah.
So I just really want to talk about Transistor for a minute because it's the most recent one from
Yeah.
Supergiant I have played, and I'm in love with it for countless reasons. It's, again, I've said it once, I'll say it twice, and probably one more time before we're done. But seriously, go play the game if you haven't played it. Just go. It's affordable. It's like right there. It downloads pretty fast. Like it's a very easy game to get into. But I think the first thing I want to know is, like, did you know the story of Transistor, like, when you were making the music, or was it something you learned along the way, or?
Definitely something I learned along the way. But I did know the general gist. I mean, that's, I think, a nice thing that they prepare me going in. So I'm not like singing things blind,
Right,
like I know the emotion that's felt, but I didn't know exactly where it would go. Like they don't have me record in a chronological,
right.
like I think the first song I sang for Transistor was We All Become. And like I didn't know like a lot at all then because that
Yeah.
was the trailer song, I think. So yeah, then you kind of like as I sang more, I would discover more about the
Hmm.
character and about the game and about the storyline. So yeah, that was such a fun one. And that was when Darren and I still lived in New York. So it like has such fond memories because I would be like trekking along to Brooklyn and we listening to the songs in my little, you know, iPod probably back then. I don't even think I must have had an iPhone. But anyhow, yeah, that was a really special time in life and just like those songs are so cool
They
and
are.
fun.
They
Yeah.
are. I really love, like, everything about that soundtrack, and I think it's beautiful. I think when I did the review of the soundtrack, I think I used the word melancholy like 80 times. It was so much, but at the same time I was like, but it's so pretty, so you can't stop listening to it. So I can only imagine. In my head I was like, she had to have known at least a little bit of what she was singing about because it's a very, like,
Yeah.
emotional story.
Totally. Yeah.
So,
And
like,
it's funny because that's always my self-criticism is that I don't feel like I'm being emotional enough. Like I don't feel like I'm bringing enough gravity to the song, and then people will be like, "That made me cry," or whatever. Like, "Oh, you did get it." Like I try, but I like, when you listen back to yourself do anything, you're just so
oh,
you criticize yourself. So
tell
yeah,
me about it.
I'm happy that that comes across.
I think it is so short side piece. It is so, like, validating, and this sounds so weird to say, but kind of cool to hear that even somebody that, quite frankly, all of us just adore like you still has, like, the moments of, like, super harsh self criticism and some imposter syndrome going on. Like, I can, like, for me, I think one of the things me and my friends joke a lot about is like when we're creating cosplays, like you're not really making a cosplay until you've had a breakdown at 3 a.m. on part of it. And the more I talk to vocalists and composers, they're like, oh yeah, we do that. We've all had the moments where we're just like, I can't, scrap it,
Yeah.
call somebody else.
Yeah. Totally. I know, and I've even had times where I'll be like, Darren, I listened back. I hate it. I hate it so much. Let's do it all again. And like he'll be like, this is great. And I'll be like, no, this is terrible. Like I need another stab at this. Be like, I have to do it better. And even at the end, I'll still not be, happy with the result. But other people will be. So then I'll be like, okay, I guess it's I don't know. But some things are really hard for me to listen back. Like I still to this day I'm like, oh, I could have done so much better.
Oh my gosh.
You hear those things.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, is there a song that you hear and you're just like, that part right there, I could have done it different.
I mean, I feel like a lot of them. I even sometimes actually it's the reverse where like in the original soundtrack, I like the way that it sounds, but then like when we recorded it again, I'm like, did I lose my voice? Like, did I lose
Oh,
it? Is it worse in this version? So that was yeah, singing back some stuff. Especially like Build That Wall because I'll listen to that. That was our first for anyone who doesn't know, that was our first song with Bastion. And yeah, I feel like the original record was sounded so cool. And now whenever I sing it live, I'm like, "Ugh, I don't sound like myself, you know. But
you know what? It just sounds like a struggle we're all gonna go through and we're never gonna get past
yeah,
it, but you just learn to cope.
totally. Yeah, 100%.
The life of a creative, I swear. So,
Hmm.
still on Transistor, because again, I'm geeking and the opportunity of the lifetime right here. But obviously, a lot of the songs when you're singing, they, to a certain extent, at least the way I interpret it, is they very much embody Red. For anybody who
Hmm.
hasn't played Transistor, how dare you? But that's the main character, and she's a singer, and she's a singer who lost her voice. It's not spoilers. You're fine. Did you have like a connection with her at all, like while you were singing her songs and doing the humming and everything?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I used to be like, an actor when I was doing like musical
Right.
theater and that kind of stuff. So I definitely tried to put my theater hat on, to like be trying to empathize with the character, but there's also a lot of stuff in the lyrics that like I applied to my everyday life,
Right.
and just like things that were like going on in my own life. So I feel like definitely tried to embody Red and her story and like think about that as I was singing, but it always kind of wove into like real life examples, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Which is so, it's so weird when you thinking you're like, I can apply this to real life because the scenario that Red is in is by no means a real life
Totally.
scenario. Like,
Right. Right.
I don't know what I would do if I, lost my voice and my man was in a sword. I don't think I'd be good.
I know. Tough times.
Tough digs, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it's cool that you can connect with a character like that because
Yeah.
still a singer, and also she's just really freaking cool.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Way cooler than I ever will be.
I
That's
know,
for
right?
sure.
I was like, oh, she's way
Yeah.
cooler than anything I can ever aspire to. So I'll just play as her. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about how the humming was like a secondary thing that wasn't in the original
Mhm.
plan, and then they brought, whose idea was this at the last minute? It was like, hey,
I don't even know. I don't know. It must have been Darren because it's always Darren because he's so smart and just uses audio in such a unique way. But it's always my favorite thing to describe to people who don't play video games and ask me what I do. Like, I don't think anybody in my like close orbit who are not video game people, like still to this day, I don't think they understand like what I do, they're
right,
like, you think, so I try to explain the humming and like how you can turn it on, turn it off when you're planning your attack, like,
right,
how that is like part of the gameplay. So like music is very much a tool
yes,
that, you can use in that way. And that is a very like good way for me to explain to non-video game people like the things I do.
right. That's like a really good
Yeah.
example because I'm always like, okay, how do I
Yeah.
explain my very artistic and not very mainstream job to people who have no idea
Yes.
what's going on? And if I was you,
Yeah.
I'd probably use the same example. I'd be like, no, no, I'm not
Yeah.
just singing. I mean, I am, but I'm not just
Right.
singing. Like, I'm a
Right.
part of the experience and the mechanics and everything else. And
Yeah. And the other one is from Bastion, which I don't think you've played yet,
I
I don't
have it, but
think.
I bought it. It is
Okay.
sitting on my desktop.
Okay. Good.
Hmm.
Well, you should play that next, but I don't think this will give no spoilers here, but they also use my character, like you can find her if it's louder. So like, you're getting closer to her when
Oh,
it's you hear her song more. So that's another part that you can really show how it's used because everyone really thinks of like video game music as just background, kind of just as you're playing, you just, as you're doing it. But
yeah.
like to have it be so incorporated in the gameplay, I think is something that most people don't understand if you're, again, not part of the
Right.
community.
If you're not in our world, if you don't know,
Yeah.
that is so
Yeah.
cool. Because I think the way I like describe it is like, and now I forgot the word, but it's very much woven into the mechanics, right? It's adaptive. It's adaptive is what I call it.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that's like one of the biggest like revelations in the video game music industry is having this like adaptive music that changes as you play and as you discover things and like in different portions, and that was a big thing. So hearing that, of course Supergiant does it in other games, I swear y'all are so great, but like it's one of my favorite things in video game music, period. Like, I love when the
Yeah.
music changes based on what I'm doing. So the first time when they were in the tutorial for Transistor, when they were like showing off, the bullet time and being able to plot out your movements and everything, I was like, oh yes,
Yeah.
humming.
Totally. Yeah, it's really cool how, I mean, they think of everything, but it's also nice that like it's not just in the back, like you notice it and it changes, but then you want to like revisit it because you like the music so much by itself, hence people listening to it on Spotify or like going to concerts or,
Right,
it very much can live outside of that world and still be impactful, which is cool.
absolutely. So I think I would get like physically attacked if I didn't talk to you about Hades at least a little bit. Like, I think for my
Yes,
safety, we should
of
bring it
course.
up. Obviously, Hades is like a critically acclaimed video game. It won awards in 2020 and 2021. Like, it really is that game, and especially with the very much looking forward to release of Hades 2 coming, that is just that game, honestly. But I think the question I have is like, were you at all surprised by all of the accolades that it was receiving? We weren't, but like it's always a different perspective from the people who were working on it. Like, were you like, oh my god, it's amazing? Like, how did you feel?
Yes, I mean, I'm still shocked because I'm more used to people not knowing, like in a mainstream sense. If you're like, oh, I work on video games and I sing with this company, Supergiant Games, and like before it was like, oh, I think I've heard of that, and now it's like you say Hades to anyone who's like adjacent to the video game world. It's like
Right.
I've heard of Hades, and like celebrities are playing Hades, and it's definitely gotten to that part of the stratosphere. So, yeah, I was shocked, and like not because I don't think that the team is like so incredible and deserves all that stuff, but it just did sort of like go into a new height,
Right.
of like of people knowing who Supergiant Games were, and yeah, Hades in particular. And
Hmm.
yeah, and it's fun because a lot of people have played Hades but maybe haven't yet gotten to Eurydice, so they, don't know yet what's
Oh yeah.
coming.
Oh yeah. I
So
have some friends who are
yeah,
starting their playthrough. I'm just like, you haven't met my favorite one yet. And when you get there, you better call me so I can sit there with
yeah,
you. Like, that is so
totally.
exciting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Obviously, like, huge congratulations on that because some of those awards were for the soundtrack as well. So that's more specifically what you and Darren did and deserved, first of all. My God. My boyfriend's favorite part, like obviously I told the story about our romance and everything, but like his favorite part of
Yeah.
Hades,
Love it.
and he's a hardcore gamer dude, like he's playing Helldivers every night and it's ridiculous and
Yeah.
very boy stuff, but his favorite part of
Uh-huh.
Hades is when he gets to a level and he can hear Eurydice sing before he sees her. Like it just stops him in his tracks. And
Yeah.
the power that has, like, do you realize like you're stopping players in their track, like hardcore players who are like roguelike game, gotta grind this out, gotta
Yeah.
beat it, and they're just
Right.
stopping, like freezing.
Yeah. Yes. That is like such a compliment and an amazing thing, especially because it is such a different vibe than a lot of the rest of the gameplay is. So I think it's also needed,
Yeah.
like you need to have a little rest unless you're, trying to win an award for getting through as fast as you can.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that there are so many people that just like have tweeted to me or I don't know, what do you call it now? They
Post. They just call it a
they
post. We're saying tweet. We're from a different era. We
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought. Well, anyhow, that seems to be the common feedback on that part of the game. It's just that like you made me want to linger in hell for longer, like
That's so true.
sit there, which is yeah, it's like such a nice compliment.
That is so
So yeah,
funny.
that was wild.
You're like, my best compliment I've ever received is I made people enjoy hell a little bit longer. Like,
Mhm.
that's something I keep with me for the rest of my life, personally. Like, I did
Yeah,
that.
I'm going to put it in my pocket.
That is so funny. So, that's more of the questions I had about the game, but I want to discuss just a little bit with you about like video game music more as a whole because you play a very pivotal role in the creation of video game music. And as I've said once, I'll say it twice and probably a third time before we finish. Video game music is my favorite part of video games. And I just want to know from your perspective, like we've talked a little bit about like adaptive, soundtracks during gameplay, but what role do you think the music plays in enhancing the player's gaming experience?
I think what we had touched on before about escapism, like having that feeling of like getting to a different place and being transported to a different world,
Mm-hmm.
that is the most, like, it's, of course, you need the beautiful art and you need the character development and you need the storyline, but like to really feel rooted in this place and to believe it and to kind of, just have that way for your mind to, be transported, I think is in the music, you know.
Absolutely.
And that might just be because I'm also a giant music fan and I feel like every occasion needs music, like if I could always have music playing, I would, I
Absolutely.
don't want silence. Like let's just that's for classical music if you want silence,
Yeah. It's
If
just quiet music. It's still a thing.
yeah, quiet music. Totally. Yeah, so I would yeah, just say it really enables you to like make that leap into the other world.
So does that at all like inspire slash motivate you when you're in the booth recording your music? Like, do you ever think about like, no, I know what this is for, and I really need them to hear it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I feel like I'm too caught up in the moment to like realize what it will mean for players, if that makes any sense. Like
mm-hmm.
I'm too much in the like, I'm doing this now and this is my experience currently. Like I think which is why it comes as a shock when so many people experience it and are impacted by it because I don't think about that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's a bad answer, but it's true. Like I'm much more selfish in my recording of it, to then be thinking like this is going to be important because it needs to bring people into whatever. It's like that's just an amazing side effect. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. It's your
Yeah.
answer. No such a thing as a wrong answer. It's just a different perspective.
Yeah.
I love that actually. So the question, we talked about trends again, adaptive music, but how do you at all, if you do, foresee video game music sort of evolving in the future. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in terms of like inventions in video game music, maybe just like in the workflow of it. Do you see trends popping up as far as how people make it or what's being used? Anything you've observed?
I was just talking to my neighbor who interviewed me for like he's a professor and he's talking about like AI and music. And so
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about this for that. And that is a crazy thing to think about using AI for
Yeah.
like, write this melancholy song about a whatever, and like
Yeah.
do it in the style of Darren Korb or like whatever. And like the fact that like that kind of thing is possible,
It
like
creeps
that
me out.
trips me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's like I don't think humans will ever not well, I mean, I say this in probably in 50 years, and it's like humans won't be doing anything. But you know what I mean? Like that you need humans for a lot of things in music creation and
Absolutely.
so and I'm just that's where I first went to when you're talking about that. I don't hope that that's going to be more of a thing, but I know that it already has and
Right.
will be, and is inevitable. So it'll be interesting to see how they can like coexist with things like that.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, it could make for some good, like create a cool beat. And then we layer on top of that, just kind of like
Right.
using it in combination. But um, yeah, and then I think, it's crazy the ability to do things remotely. Like that's also been pretty wild for me to see that we can create music. Like we did a big chunk of Hades stuff like after, being apart from each other. So it was like it's wild that you can create
Mm-hmm.
art in a like remote but collaborative way together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
speaks a lot to like the technology we have too, right? Because
Mm.
at least for me, whenever I think of like, and this is any artist, whether working on video game music or not video game music, whenever I hear about an artist working on a song, it's very much like in a traditional recording booth, and there's a sound
Mhm.
engineer in the other room, and the way that
Yeah.
we see it on TV. And then for it to not necessarily be that, and y'all can work remotely via Zoom because Zoom has absolutely just changed everything, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And you can still, it boggles my mind that you can still make such high quality and impactful music, and y'all aren't even in the same time zone. Maybe like
Yeah.
it's
I know.
ridiculous.
It's wild. Yeah, and then it's interesting having those experiences next to some of the live performances we've done or
Mm-hmm.
like larger scale recording where we have an orchestra and where it's like, I'm used to Darren and he writes and performs all the music and like he is a one man show and he like does it all and is insane and Superman. And then we like make it so much bigger because we have this like huge orchestra behind us. And then
Yeah.
it like all of a sudden the song takes on like a totally different life. And then it's like a different layer of things. So yeah, it's fun to see and have the experience of both,
Right.
where it's like this traditional kind of small and then holy hell, like look at this life that has just created, from these different musicians that have come in and put their own thing on it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I can only imagine like your first time like performing this song, but it's like a whole orchestra behind you. Like
Oh
that's,
God. Yeah.
oh my god.
Emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a waterhead. I will cry. I will cry
Yeah.
for less, but like
Oh yeah.
just I can only imagine like you're singing that song, and if it was me, I'd start crying like mid song. Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, yeah, and imagine Darren who like wrote it and then experienced it, just like crazy, like something that he wrote, and then other all of a sudden it's like,
I can't
listen
even
to this. And
imagine.
yeah, if you listen to the Songs of Supergiant Games album, like every track feels that way because it is like so grand and it's, songs that you're used to hearing in a certain way, and then you're just like, oh my God, this
Yeah,
is wild.
that's uh plus, an orchestra just does something.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
takes it from here to just up here.
I
Oh,
know, and we get the chance to do it next week, which I'm really excited at GDC. So
yeah.
we're going to be singing with an orchestra again, which like, oh my God, that's just the best whenever you can do that.
That is so cool. I'm going to like send one of my friends going to GDC a cutout of me, and I'm just gonna ask them to slide it in the
Perfect.
audience so
Good
you
call.
can pretend I'm there.
Okay.
And that'll be, you'll see the cutout. I won't wave, but like I'll have a smile on my face.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm
All
into
right.
it.
All right, cool. Because if I could be there, I swear I'd be like front row swinging my shirt over my head kind of thing. You'd have to carry me off probably, but I'm just,
Yeah.
it's really cool. Ugh,
Yeah.
I can't wait to start
Super
going
cool.
now.
I hope that Jeff does more of the Game Awards concerts because we did that last summer and like
Yeah.
that was so cool. And like, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to do that again because it was like a crazy. I sang at the Hollywood Bowl, like
Yeah.
whoever, how, I still can't believe it. But that really brings the, video game music to a whole new level of like just bigness.
Bigness is so the word. And I
Yeah.
think, I think there's been like a lot of talk lately on the internet about like there's got to be a term for this. I've asked everybody I've talked to so far, like, you've got video game music. What do you call the non video game music? Like, because I'm not going to call it regular. That's weird, you know? But, like,
Yeah.
there's got to be a word. But whatever it is, there's been this, like, conversation about, trying to get the mainstream media and everybody else to kind of understand that it has its place. It's just as important as,
Mhm.
whatever is on Billboard. And
Mhm.
there's people who were like, "Oh, I'm so glad that I, went to classic music training as opposed to playing video games." And people are like, "Okay, but like video games introduced me to music the same way." And
Mhm.
it's so interesting to see that shift, cuz
Yeah.
like back in the day, back in my day when I was young, um, being a gamer was like weird. Like you were a nerd. You were
Yeah.
you were the weird one. But like now you've got people who are coming out and even if they are like, artists who aren't making video game music, they're like
Yeah.
inspired by video game music and
Mhm.
the the amount of like evolution it's had, like even in my lifetime is incredible. Like
Yeah. Well, I think it's becoming undeniable. I mean, like marketers are catching on like, "Oh, I need to be selling my product to video game people." It's like I think it's definitely a force that is, you know, to be reckoned with. Even just thinking of like I just watched the Oscars a couple nights ago and I remember hearing the stats on like people who watch the Oscars versus the Game Awards and
mhm.
like how staggeringly bigger it was for the Game Awards. And like when I say that to people like in my parents' generation, because they'll be like, "That's cool, you sang at the Game Awards." I'm like, "No, it's like a
No,
big
I sang
deal,
at
like
the Game Awards.
yeah, like this is the thing that people are paying attention to, but it's there's a lot of education, but I feel like, for those who are in it, you're like, yeah, we're like we are impactful, you know.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to see. I can't wait to see it take over more and more. But on that note, you talked about Jack Black singing Peaches earlier. And that man is iconic for about 1,000 reasons, and that just added one on.
Yeah.
Get a whole new generation of kids watching School of Rock because he's saying Peaches. Like this is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
in the world of hypotheticals, if they were to make a movie of one of Supergiant's games, it'd probably be Hades, if we're being honest. I know that I'm biased towards Transistor right now, and probably when I play Bastion, then I'll be biased towards it. Like, it's gonna
Mhm.
move. But
Mhm.
if they were to make a movie of one of the games, would you sing on the soundtrack for that one as well?
Yes, what I mean, what kind of question is that? Of course, that would be amazing. But I echo you, and maybe it's just because I have more songs than Transistor, but I do feel like that could be one hell of a movie,
Right?
when I think of like a translation. Yeah, and also just watching like The Last of Us and seeing like how that kind of translated onto the
Absolutely.
screen. Yeah, I feel like, Transistor, give it a shot,
Oh, it could
you
make
know?
one heck of a movie. It really could. But
Yeah. Or like limited series run,
I was gonna say
whatever
that,
works.
yeah, short
Yeah.
series or a movie or
Yeah.
whatever
Whatever.
works. I
Yeah.
think it'd do amazing, quite frankly. But that's
Yeah.
just us.
I
What do we know? We only played it or sang for it. We're not biased in the slightest.
No, not at all.
Not at
Yeah, no,
all.
but I mean, Hades would be epic, obviously, as well. And, maybe more appealing to the mass, if that's what we're going for.
Although I will say, once I started asking people, I was like, what soundtracks would you want me to review? The number of people who almost immediately were like, Pyre, review Pyre and review it now. And I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, I was not expecting a not triple A title to be the first thing people said, quite frankly.
yeah,
You,
yeah. It's awesome.
yeah, people ride hard for
Right.
Pyre, I've realized.
They do. And I feel like it's kind of a sleepy giant, like if you don't know it, once you do, you become very like, yeah,
Yeah.
in it. But it's so unique. I mean, every sound is so different, but yet cohesive in Darren's, sort of library of music. But yeah, don't sleep on Pyre.
Don't. I bought them both. They were both on sale.
Yeah,
I slid them in my cart so fast. They're on my
awesome.
desktop,
I
I
love it.
promise. So singing upside down notwithstanding, are there any like specific techniques or tools that you commonly use when you're creating music?
I don't know. I think one is it's different from like singing live versus like recording, but something that Darren always pushes me to is singing like quietly and more breathy because I tend, especially with my musical theater background, and my acapella-ness, that's not something that I typically do. I kind of want to like cut it as
Project
hard
and
as I can. And yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm learning has its own power. And when I listen back, because I'll be like, this is not impressive. Like anyone can do this kind of like whisper, breathy, whatever, but it's like a style that, I didn't know that I had, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. Of yeah. So that's something because I also am I'm a like a lower singer. I sing very low. So
Right.
that's sort of where I feel my most comfortable. So then when I have high notes, if I have to go into that sort of like breathy, like head voice kind of stuff, I don't always feel like it's powerful. Do you know what I mean? But it
Right.
is if you do it in the right way.
Right.
So I think, yeah.
It was a whole like moment of like self-discovery and like what you can do. Like, wait.
Yeah, or just like, yeah, things that you can do, but you didn't think people would want to listen to it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I swear. Like, because again, on my end, I'm just like, well, of course the breathiness works so well over these games. But then you're in, you're like, that's not how I be singing. So what is this? Like this?
right,
Okay,
right.
trust the process. I feel like a lot of it might just be a little bit of trust the process. And granted, I bet
Oh
it
yeah.
helps because you already know Darren. But like,
Yeah.
I trust you. I feel like that's a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So I'll be like, you want this sounds like that? Like you think that sounds good? Like, okay. But I don't hear what he hears. That's the beauty of what
Yeah,
he does.
but he sounds like a musical genius, and we
Yes.
simply enjoy what he creates, and
Yes,
he proves it every time.
he does. He sure does.
So obviously, you've sort of like there's a word I'm sure for it, but you've like connected yourself probably to a lot of people when you spoke about like your imposter syndrome and the doubt you kind of have and like are you sure, but like what advice would you give to people who are maybe aspiring to do what you do?
Think that you have to find your own style. Like I think a lot of my early days of singing, I was trying to sing like somebody else, and that doesn't always get you where you want to be. And, I would think like that my style wasn't as good as if I was trying to sound like, someone else or whatnot. But so trusting that you have something to offer, that's unique and different and not trying to, be like a pop star when you sing, like that kind of stuff. Um, so that, and I think just like being my therapist always talks about how if you like, open yourself up to things, they will come. And
Right.
just like rather than being just so closed off and not thinking that good things will happen to you. And like if you kind of just like are ready to receive,
Mm-hmm.
like as weird that sounds, I think that that is when things start happening,
Yeah.
because you just are like and asking for it, like this is what I want, and like visualizing, and I want to do this, and I want to have something to look forward, whatever. And then, yeah, that is just primes you for accepting the stuff.
That is so real.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
that applies to anybody, honestly, not even
I
just
love therapy. I mean,
me too.
that, yeah, it's so good. It's the best.
Honestly, shout out to our therapist. I love my therapist. Even she knows I'm doing this right now, and she's just like, ask her about like what she thinks and like what is her mindset and all of these things. She's like, because now I'm interested. And I'm like, okay, do you want to call her? Like, but yeah, I think that's just really good advice for anybody, but especially in a
Yeah.
creative position. Like I think we work in an industry that's not sort of, it's not as cut and dry as like the typical, go to the office 9 to 5
Mhm.
and I think it's a little bit different. And so being open to receiving, I think that's huge. I mean, I think it's huge in general, but it's very big as a
Yeah.
creative.
And the other thing I would say is like the scarcity mentality where like I have always been like, this is never gonna come again. Like I'm never gonna get an opportunity like that. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
feeling like, oh my God. And like I always compare a show or like, a game launching as like the night that I feel like Cinderella, and then the next day I'm like in my rags. Like, I have my glasses on, and then oh my God, it's all gone. And knowing that like things will come again. Like I
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot of artists talking about that where it's like not being so afraid that like this is it, like this is the last thing I'm gonna work on,
Ooh.
because I always am terrified of that. Like,
Ooh.
oh my God, I'm never gonna be on another video game, but then it comes and something else happens. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
not
That's
being
that's a big one, I think. I didn't even think of that one, honestly. Like, and you know what? It's weird because we do have those thoughts. Like, okay, I got this is my last big thing, and I'm done after this, and nobody's gonna call me ever again. And then it's never
Mhm.
true.
Yeah,
But it's a
yeah,
valid fear. Oh, that's one to bring up to my
yeah,
therapist, speaking of which, because, hey, is this an anxiety thing? And she's gonna tell me yes, because it all is. But like,
yeah.
that's a good one. Write that one down, everybody. Um, so I have the weirdest question for you.
I'm so ready.
It's, well, not the weirdest, but weird for people who aren't me. Um,
Okay.
if you were to have a soundtrack for your life, right? Like it plays during all of your days and everything. What kind of music would it be? Like what genre? Would it have lyrics? Would it not? What kind of music would
Is
it
it
be?
weird that the first thing that came to my head was the Dirty Dancing movie soundtrack?
It's not weird.
I don't know why. I mean, it's just so good. And I was like, I watched a documentary on like how they chose the music for that, and like talking about they were trying to get all these songs they didn't think they were going to get. So I don't know if that is at all a genre. I don't know, like 1950s, 1960s, like throwback. But maybe, I don't know. I just something where like every song is a banger. I
Yeah.
think that would want to be like there are no throwaway songs. So either that or like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else that's maybe a little bit of a better answer, but is it weird that that popped into my head? Like,
No, that's speak your truth, honestly. Like
it's a great movie.
it
It's a
is.
great track. So
I mean,
yeah,
if that's what works. I mean, I respect the concept of whatever it is, it can be a no skip album. Like all of it
yeah,
is something you
yes,
listen to. I think
totally.
that's super powerful, honestly, and that would have been a fine answer by itself. Like whatever it is, there are no skips on it. None
Yes,
of it's a throwaway.
exactly. Yeah, and I think of also of a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with Alan Silvestri. Do you know him as a composer? He does a lot of
A
movies.
little bit, yeah.
He did like Forrest Gump and he
Hmm.
did like so much that you probably didn't even know that he did, but that also kind of like epically long, beautiful songs that just like play in the background, like that kind of stuff.
You know, honestly, even if it was like just Forrest Gump vibe music, that was one heck of a soundtrack too. Like the score for that and
Oh yeah.
everything. So
Oh yeah,
I
for
could do
sure.
that because that's one heck of
Yeah, and
a.
he also makes wine, and I'm a wine member at his
Oh my
wine
god.
place. So I know. And you go into the wine, like the tasting room, and he's playing all the scores that he worked on. So it's like Avengers will come up and like other
Stop.
crazy, like Death Becomes Her, like crazy stuff that he did
That is
the score for.
like the coolest business model I've ever heard.
Yeah, I know.
Come in, drink wine, hear the soundtracks that I have made for some of your favorite movies over time.
Oh, we should get someone to do it for video games because that would be so epic. Maybe Darren.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell Darren to
Okay,
open a wine. I'm
please
just gonna tell
call
him.
him, and then when y'all open it and everything, A, I'm gonna invest, but then B, I need to be at like the grand opening ceremony because just please put
Done.
Riesling on the menu. That's all I want.
Okay.
I'm a
Okay, good to
Riesling
know.
girl. Hmm.
Darren's more of a cocktail guy, so I don't know, maybe we'll make
Maybe
a gin or
both.
something.
See, I can do
Yeah.
that too. I'm with both.
Okay, cool.
All right, I like that a lot actually. So I asked this question of like everybody I ever meet because this has nothing to do with music, mind you. What is your favorite food?
Oh gosh. Is this like a last meal question or is this like
Okay, okay,
or
okay.
there's
We're gonna split it then. We're gonna split it.
okay.
What is your favorite food overall that like you just genuinely don't really get tired of? And then
Okay.
what would your last meal be? Because I like that.
I was just gonna say the same thing for both, maybe. I'll start with a burger. I am like such a burger
Mm-hmm.
girl.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like my last meal I've always said would be like a really good burger, fries, and a nice glass of red wine.
Mm, I love that a lot.
Sorry, I have this little cough. Hold on.
You're doing great. She coughs, but so do we all. It's fine. You got it.
Okay. So yeah, that or also thing I never get tired of is like homemade pasta, like,
Mm.
legit
Mm-hmm.
crank it through. Like I studied in Italy when I was in college, and I think that that maybe fostered my love
That
of
might have something to do
really
with it.
good pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's so easy to make and like feels so much better on your body when you make it yourself.
Yes.
So
Me and my mom took a
yeah,
pasta making class together right
so
before
fun, right?
COVID. First off, that was the most gratifying thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
But when me and my mom both got for Father's Day, my dad bought me and my mom like KitchenAid stand mixers and like the real fancy ones. I know. And then we both got our
Yeah.
like pasta roller attachments. And she'll call
Mhm,
me. She's like,
mhm.
"Hey, we need to schedule a day to make ravioli because like I need to use this." And
Ravioli is impressive too, because
mm-hmm,
you can make like regular pasta, but the whole layer and cutting,
it's a whole
it's a
thing.
thing.
It really is.
Mhm.
And we loved it's satisfying. It really is. But fresh
Yeah,
pasta, once you do fresh pasta, like dried pasta doesn't hit the same and
I know. It's so sad.
it really is sad, but desperate
Yeah,
times call for dry pasta, I guess.
I know. And honestly, like I feel like the amount of time is not as much as you would think. And
No,
then, the cook time is like 3 minutes. So it's like
literally.
once you've done all the work, then you can just eat right away. So,
Exactly. As opposed
you
to
know,
the 15
worth
minutes for the dry. We're telling you to make your own pot. It's not even hard. She just said,
yeah,
like, it's not hard.
it's not.
So
No.
get your hands in there. Make some pasta. If you take nothing
Yeah.
else from this entire interview, it's that you need to make your own pasta.
Yeah.
And the next time we speak to Ashley, it'll be about pasta making. So stay tuned for
Mhm,
that in
mhm.
the future. But I like that. I think a good handmade pasta, but then a good burger. Those are both
Yeah.
Very good meals in general.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, me too. This was a terrible idea. I don't know why I did this. But I had sushi right before this because I always ask this question.
I
Yeah.
love sushi.
Yeah, I do. We go like once a week. It's all you can eat. I have a
Oh,
problem, Ashley.
dangerous.
Kind
Yeah.
of. It's $17 all you can eat. Like it's not even expensive, and it's yeah, really good. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we've gone every week for a year and a half now. So
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
awesome. I love that. I could have sushi, I think, every night, literally.
yeah,
Just
and
so good.
same. Honestly, is it the best thing I could eat every day? No, but that's not gonna stop me. Well, those are the things that I wanted to ask you. This has been
Amazing.
wonderful, truly. Like it has just been
Yay.
awesome getting to know your process and how you got here. And you know, I do have one more question. I do have one more
Oh,
question.
okay.
Are you? Because I feel like there's probably NDA stuff, so I'm not gonna ask you about Hades 2 directly because I'll get my
Good
hopes up.
girl.
Yeah, I know. I've been around. I've been in this rodeo before. Okay, but like, are you as excited as we are? Because I feel like NDA doesn't keep you from saying that. Are you as excited as we are? Because we're ready. We're hyped.
Yes. Yes. I will just say yes.
Good. Good.
Gonna be awesome.
Good. Yeah. No, we're ready. Like the whole world is ready. Like my
I
boyfriend
know it's
is
a
just
shame that, Supergiant just like takes so long for these games.
my
Like, come on.
God. Like turn them out faster. I want one every 3 weeks. You can do it. Like let's go.
I know. But I love their style of just like this is our process. And they take their time off. It's
Hmm.
like it's all very, very good the way that they do it.
It's very sustainable, I feel.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I respect it. You know, it's not like this is
Yeah.
GTA 6 or something, which takes half my lifetime to make. So I mean, I'm not bothered at all. I think they're doing a great job, quite frankly.
Totally. I know. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ashley. This has been wonderful.
Yes.
Seriously.
So fun. So good getting to know, so good. So great getting to know you. I appreciate you spending the time. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're such a big fan of all the stuff.
Oh, huge. Huge. I'm trying so hard to be professional right now, but the fangirl like is on the inside. Just I know the camera can see me, so we're gonna pretend that I'm being normal about this entire thing.
Sounds great. I love it.
For everybody watching, obviously everything about Ashley will be in the description where you can follow her, where you can see if you haven't played the game. Transistor will be the first thing. It's gonna say like in all caps. It's gonna say play Transistor, and then Ashley's stuff, and just really get into if you aren't into Supergiant games, it's just a great way to see the breadth of work that she's done, and you should. In fact, it's not a you
Yeah.
should. It's like it's a you will thing. Like it's a demand at this point.
Yeah. I love it.
Do all of it. But we will see you in the next video. Go get some sushi, all of y'all, and thank you so much.